I'm starting to feel like I qualify to be a judge on American Idol. For the second straight week, I've got a top 10 contestant where soccer played a role in their life. So here we are on the Coaching Academy. This time we want to welcome in from Philadelphia by way of London, England, Louis Knight. Louis, what's happening?
Hey, good to see you and meet you, Glenn. Yeah, I definitely think you're ready to be a judge, American Idol. um,
Well, I'm watching it more fervently now. Obviously, now I have a second soccer comrade to root for. But tell us a little bit about how you ended up in Philadelphia. You grew up in England, so what was that? What happened there?
yeah, so how we ended up moving over here was basically when I was 9 years old. My dad started a company with some old business partners in Philadelphia because he needed a new job, and he started going 2 weeks in Philadelphia and 2 weeks back home in England with us. So for that year, my family, my mum's from Brighton and Brighton, an hour south of London. And for that year, we moved to Brighton while my dad was going 2 weeks back and forth. And then it eventually just got too much, and we all decided it would be better to all come over.
Brighton, that's right on the water, right?
That's right on the water, yeah.
So are you a Brighton and Hove Albion fan, supporter?
So I'm actually a huge Brighton fan because my granddad actually saved the football club. Um, he
What's
he,
that?
he my granddad's actually the ex-chairman
Wow. Oh, how
of
about that?
Brighton. Yeah.
Tell us that story a bit.
So basically, my granddad had always been a massive fan. I mean, his granddad took him to games when he was a kid, and then his dad took him to games. So he was always really passionate about football, soccer. And then eventually, what happened was Brighton, their chairman at the time, Bill Archer, he sold Brighton Stadium, the Goldstone Ground. He sold their stadium to basically to developers who were going to turn it into a shopping center. So then everyone all the fans kind of ousted him from the club, and then the club were left without a stadium. So that's kind of when my granddad kind of took over and tried to save the club because they were about to go bankrupt and they'd lost their ground. And he
How about
basically
that?
at the time he put every penny he had into it, and then had to fight for about 10 years. I think they fought for planning permission to build the Falmouth Stadium, which is now known as the American Express Community Stadium.
And what's your grandfather's name? We'll have to
Dick
have
Knight.
everybody look this up. What is it again?
Dick Knight.
Dick Knight. All right. Well,
Yeah.
we're with Louis Knight, top 10 contestant, American Idol. So how much soccer has been in your life? I mean, football, you're right in the midst of it. So does that mean you played and you followed it closely?
Yeah, football has always been, I mean, growing up, I would every single weekend we would drive down from London to Brighton to go watch the that week's football match. And then or we'd travel everywhere all over England in my granddad's car with me and with my cousins and I, all to go see the games. It was very much just that was our life. That was our routine. And
Did you
yeah,
have a
and
hero? Did you have a favorite player?
I think my favorite player has got to be Glenn Murray, because it's been really cool because now obviously Brighton, they're not a top Premier League club. They're not. They've worked their way up through the ranks over the last few years, and it's been really incredible to grow up to be able to watch that happen. Because we went to every single game, and that was back when we were in League Two, and then we eventually got to League One, and then eventually got up to the Championship, and then we were just constantly fighting to get to the Premier League. And then I was back in England visiting my family, and I happened to end up going to the match that that took us to the Premier League,
Wow.
which was just such a dream come true. And
Describe that scene. People crying,
oh,
just
I
all
have I have the craziest videos of being out on that pitch, because we all just flooded the pitch, and everyone was crying, everyone was screaming, just like everyone was just hugging each other. Everyone was just hugging each other, and it was just such a beautiful moment to be able to kind of share that. Obviously, that was one of my granddad's biggest dreams, to be able to see that in his lifetime, and being able to kind of share that moment with him was really something special, and my family.
Well, that's a wonderful story, Louis. And then you learned you were going to come to the States, and I wondered, did you think like, well, the United States is not always known for its football and soccer. Did you think like, well, how am I going to keep grabbing onto this sport?
Well, yeah, when we first initially moved here, so my brother, my older brother Max, he's really like he was always the much better athlete, and the much better soccer player. Um, but I was always very much also into it, because he was so good at it, and it was kind of like we just like to do things together. And I always wanted to be a part of his world. When we first moved here, we both started out at local travel soccer teams. I was on the C team. It's really funny actually, because I'm honestly, I love football. I love playing it, and I still do every chance I get. But I was always a lot less good than, never as good as my brother. So when we moved here, they like the local travel team, like they were like, okay, like a kid from England coming over, like he's gonna be
Exactly. It's
really
like,
good.
let's get him in.
He's gonna be really good. And I tried out for the A team. I tried out for the A team, and they were like, ooh. So they brought me down to the C team. But unlike me, my brother ended up going straight to the A team, and then I played throughout up until high school. I played travel team soccer, and then I stopped at high school, and then I tried out for varsity soccer for my high school, and I didn't make it. So
All right. So now, so the singing comes into more focus at this point.
I ended up playing freshman soccer,
Okay.
and I was a striker, and I was one of the top scorers,
All
which I'm
right.
proud to say. And then basically, and then that was kind of that following year, that sophomore year was when, I mean, my brother was on the varsity team for Lower Merion High School. That's where we went, and he was a starter, and then I tried out, but I didn't make it. So then I ended up becoming like the manager, and I would just to kind of be a part of it all with, and kind of share the experience with my brother and all of our friends who were on the team.
Just
And then
soaking it all in. That's
exactly,
fantastic. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, Louis Knight, our guest here, top 10 American Idol contestant, and it's uh, it's interesting that this. We had Grace on last week talking about her soccer and how it influenced her in a positive manner. Do you feel the same way? Do some of your soccer experiences weigh heavily on how you perform?
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of many different ways, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of times when you're out on the football field and you feel like giving up, and you're tired, and you feel dead. You know, your muscles are cramping, you're really sore, and that definitely relates to performing. I mean, there's been a lot of times where I'm performing on the show where I really don't feel well, where I've been sick, or where I've just not felt like, I mean, in Hollywood Week, I really wanted to give up, and I almost packed my suit. I started
Wow.
packing my suitcase, and I was
Really?
like, I
Why?
can't.
Why?
I Sleep deprivation kicked in, because I had, I think, like 2 hours of sleep, maybe 4.5 hours of sleep over 3 nights. so I was really just mentally deteriorated, and I started packing my suitcase. I was like, I can't do this. And then kind of that kind of thing of perseverance, and I think that's definitely something that every football soccer player knows. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very easy to give up, and those are the moments that really count
So
when you
when you
choose to keep going.
was a lot of it nerves? You just couldn't sleep? Is
It
that what it
was
was about?
I mean, there just wasn't time to sleep. We would be at the venue, at the theater, and then getting back. We'd be at the theater from 8 a.m., getting back at 11 o'clock at night, then having to pick a song and learn it overnight, and then be up at 5 a.m. to get ready for call time at 6. So it really was just, there wasn't any time to really sleep, and that was it. Yeah, and then it just kind of, I started dealing with anxiety, stress, sleep lack of sleep induced anxiety, but yeah, that's it. Definitely correlates.
Yeah, well, you were resilient and you passed on, and your dog is getting into the
Sorry,
picture.
my dog.
What's
Yeah,
That's all right. You could shield the soccer ball while you move it around with the dog trying to
yeah,
get a hold of it.
exactly.
So somebody sent your audition. I had not seen it before, and it was a rather moving performance. The thing that spearheaded your vault and all this, and it was an
Thank you.
original composition, and it was one that was quite emotional for you. Can you tell us the story?
Thank you. Yeah. So, basically, my brother and I's first friend, really, when we moved here, he was a big soccer player. He was fantastic. He was an incredible athlete, and that's how we really became friends with him. And his name was Russell. And in in 2018, in January of 2018, he took his own life, and I basically I wrote this song Change about kind of going through that loss, and kind of finding myself again, and kind of also as a message of hope, hopefully, for other people that are suffering, because um, mental health awareness is something, and suicide prevention is something that's now really close to my heart, and I've been trying to advocate for awareness as much as I can, and I've been working with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, that the charity, and kind of doing a lot of work with them too.
It's interesting because that's become more prevalent on the athletic side with soccer players as well, where they're being much more open about depressive states, and it is something that helps, right?
It really is incredible. I've noticed that too. It's oftentimes in football back in the day, it was very footballers had soccer players, footballers had a very hard time. They didn't feel like, I mean, it wasn't really something that you could talk about, and I mean, not many people really felt that way anyway. Felt that they could talk about it, and it's becoming so much more prevalent in society now, and it is really great seeing more and more footballers lately really step out and try to open the conversation. And I know BBC Sport has back in England has done a lot of work with getting old footballers in to talk about it, and they've aired a bunch of little talk shows about that.
So what has it been like performing at home? They send you these iPhones, and you have to set it up, and you're tutored how to do it. No audience. Where do you gather your inspiration?
It's definitely a change, not performing for, because I love performing in front of a live crowd and kind of feeling that energy in the room. It's definitely been it's been a transition, but it's been such an incredible learning process, really. We're kind of constantly on Zooms with the director Phil Hayes, and the producers, kind of working out shots and set designing, and talking to the audio engineers, because we're learning how to audio engineer and to direct, and we're learning all this stuff that
Yeah.
we would have never learned. So it's really been an incredible process. And
Louis, who is switching the cameras? I've been intrigued by that. How does that all happen? And then you have the the auxiliary group performing, and that gets all synced up. How does that work?
Yeah, so we basically have we kind of have A, B, and C cameras rolling. I don't I'm hopefully won't get in trouble for saying this to give it away, but we
Yeah.
basically have camera B and which is our main camera that while we're performing we look down and we basically just keep the iPhones rolling. We kind of roll them all at the same time and we say like take one and we do a clap to make sure the audio's in sync
Yeah.
and then we just we've just got them set up and then that's what we then send over the film after we're done and then they kind of edit it together.
Ah, wow. So it's really, well, you're learning how to perform in whatever environment you need to, right?
Exactly, it's really incredible and yeah, I mean, I think in terms of performing, I think what I've been trying to do is just find as many ways as I can to really connect through my song and the emotion to everyone out there watching from their homes.
Why Coldplay in My Place? That's your most recent performance, your home performance. They are a London-based band. Did that have anything to do with it?
Yeah. Oh, that had a huge part to do with it. Yeah, I mean, Coldplay and Chris Martin, they've always been one of my big inspirations. They were one of the first bands my dad got me listening to when I was a kid. They're one of the so I recently stumbled upon a home video that just kind of even further validated that when I was 2 years old, it was Christmas and I was 2 years old and I was sitting in my granddad's lap and all my cousins, my older cousins were kind of all standing around like playing on baby instruments and Coldplay was playing in the background and it was in my place. So then I was just like, I have to do this song.
Wow. So what's it like? So you're not third string. You're not on the third team here on American Idol. You're in the top tier, as it will now be cut to a top 7 next. And well, final thought is, I've heard the word heartthrob used in relation to Louis Knight. What's that like?
It's a bit weird. I mean, I definitely don't think of myself as a heartthrob at all. But it's definitely it's obviously really sweet to hear that.
All right, Louis. Best of luck, and we really appreciate the time today to review how soccer has played a role in your life for the second straight week here on the Coaching Academy. An American Idol top 10, Louis Knight. Good luck on Sunday. I know that's a big night.
Thank you